The reason I own Bitcoin is because it's either A, good for the world, it's an ethical imperative, or it's B, essential for the world, right? So it's ethical and it's
In an interview recently, Michael Saylor gave his view on how well Bitcoin will perform during the banking crisis and central banks' digital currency. Can Bitcoin survive the banking crisis? Can Bitcoin survive the central bank's digital currency? This video details Bitcoin's performance in the banking crisis and whether it can survive central bank's digital currency, so stay tuned.
I need to know.
Until Bitcoin was created and the concept of cryptocurrency was born, fiat money was extremely effective all over the world, and banks had more significant influence in terms of money transfers. People used to travel with money in their pockets or stand in a bank line to send or receive money. Bitcoin solves this. Banks are failing worldwide, and many investors are losing a lot of money as a result. It's even worse in the United States, where huge, small, and regional banks are failing. Many currencies are falling and losing value due to inflation. According to Michael Saylor, we are in an era of dead money if the world's strongest currency, the United States dollar, has an inflation rate of 4.9%, nearly 5%, implying that actual inflation may be higher and banks are collapsing across the world.
What we see is an avalanche of banking failures internationally. The extreme examples in Africa and South America and Asia, where the banks literally seal their doors, freeze your funds, and don't give them back to you. And I think we see an avalanche of currency failures all around the world. The extreme examples of Venezuela, Argentina, Nigeria, etc., Sri Lanka. But the lesser example is even in the U.S., the world's most solid, strongest fiat currency in the world today reports what is it, like a 4.9% CPI number, in that range. And that means that the actual monetary inflation in the dollar is more than 5%. It's much more than that. The CPI is the lowest inflation number the government's not going to actually endorse, not the highest. Inflation in places like Argentina is 105%. Inflation everywhere in the world, in the world's strongest currency, the monetary inflation must be running 10%. In the weaker currencies, 20 to 30%. In the weakest currencies, 50 to 100%. So we have a crisis of confidence in currencies. We have a crisis of confidence in banks. And everywhere else in the world, if you want to actually access the strong currency, the dollar, you have to do it through a bank, but you can't trust the bank. And so,
what does this mean for Bitcoin, then? Can Bitcoin survive or die? Stay tuned and find out.
I want to know more.
At a time when banks are failing and money is dying, inflation rates are skyrocketing, and investors are losing money, digital currencies appear to be the only way out. Because some cryptocurrencies have no fundamental value and are only used for speculation, Bitcoin is the only way to go. When the banks started failing, Bitcoin adoption increased, and many institutions and influencers started analyzing how important Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is the currency of the people and performs well in times of crisis. This is what Michael has to say.
So it's ethical and it's an imperative. If you want to give freedom and property rights and hope to 8 billion people, you're not going to do it by day trading random stocks or investing in the corner delicatessen or trading options, right? If you're just a simple investor, that's not going to actually make the world a better place for 8 billion people. So Bitcoin is much more ethical than 100,000 other investment ideas. And I think the ability to give digital property or digital scarcity to 8 billion people on a mobile phone is sort of a once in the history of the human race development. It's a paradigm shift. And so the reason to invest in Bitcoin is the same reason you ought to support running water or electricity. Or if I said, would you like to teach everybody, on the continent how to master fire? Why should I do that? The answer is because life is cold, short, and brutal without fire.
Michael is correct because Bitcoin has rallied more than 30% during the banking crisis and more than 60% since the beginning of the year. The question is, now that central banks are creating their own central bank's digital currency, will Bitcoin survive? Well, stay tuned to find out. If you want to learn how to invest properly and become a profitable crypto investor, kindly subscribe to the channel and put on notifications.
I subscribe to that.
Because of the simplicity and widespread adoption of Bitcoin by the general public, central banks around the world are attempting to develop a digital currency that will compete with Bitcoin and be more stable to operate as money. This CBDC may function as money, but can it guarantee the anonymity Bitcoin provides? Central bank digital currency, CBDC, is a type of digital money issued by a central bank rather than a commercial bank. As with real banknotes and coins, it is a liability of the central bank and denominated in the national currency. CBDCs are issued by central banks, which are responsible for providing financial services to a country's government and commercial banking system, setting monetary policy, and issuing currency. According to Michael Saylor, these CBDCs cannot eliminate Bitcoin since Bitcoin will coexist with everything. Being it gold, silver, dollar, digital dollar, in fact, everything, and it is the most powerful money mankind has ever had.
Coexist with gold, with silver, with the dollar, with the peso, with the bolivar, with the real, with the CNY, with the digital CNY. It's going to coexist with everything. Bitcoin is the strongest money that humanity has. Bitcoin's going to coexist with Apple stock and Google stock and Facebook stock and the S&P index and the ARK ETF and bond funds, right? And commercial real estate. All of these things are out there. I believe they're all weaker forms of property, right? And at the same time, as long as there is an Apple corporation, there will be Apple stock. As long as there is a United States of America, there will be the US dollar. As long as China exists, there'll be the CNY. So nation states will issue their currencies. The weak nation states that collapse may adopt the dollar or the euro or some other currency because their own currency collapsed. But in a world of nation states, we'll have fiat currencies. In a world of corporations, we'll have securities issued by the corporations. In a world of municipalities, we'll have debt issued by debtors. In a world where people live in houses and they work in buildings, we'll have real estate. Those asset classes won't go away, but Bitcoin will go from being 0.1%.
Solana has been performing well lately, and we have made a video about how investors can benefit from its performance, so check the video titled Bullish Solana Performance to take advantage of it now.